All right, here we are. Thank you, Scorn. How are you doing today? Doing pretty well? Well, welcome to another movie review stream. My name is Mark McPherson, film critic for movieswithmark.com and a few other places. And so it's Friday the 13th. We're right in the middle of June. We've got Father's Day coming up this weekend, and we've got plenty of new movies to talk about. We've got reviews today of How to Train Your Dragon, the 2025 remake by the same writer and director, now in live action. We'll also be talking about Celine Song's new film, The Materialists, which Song previously made a film called Past Lives, which was my number 3 film from 2 years ago, so we'll see if it holds up with her latest drama. And we'll take a look at Predator, Killer of Killers, an animated anthology of the Predator movies that more or less kind of spins off from Prey in a bit. It's from the same director as Prey, so a lot of familiar names here. Predator, Killer of Killers is already on Hulu right now, but How to Train Your Dragon and Materialists are going to be in theaters this weekend. So I know they're technically out right now, but if you're looking for a preview of the weekend, that's what I do here. So if you'd like to stay up to date on the latest movies as they come out, including much earlier reviews, which I will be doing more frequently as we get through the summer and definitely into the fall, be sure to like this video and subscribe to stay up to date on the latest movies. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon, where you can get some of my movie history books as I'm writing them. We just recently had a new patron yesterday called Tanya, so thank you very much, Tanya, for supporting. As well as, of course, Vice Versa Scorn, who is in the chat right now, and also Brett Walton. So if you'd like to be listed as well, you can sign up on Patreon, and you get some books. It's actually a pretty good deal on the books, too, because my Saturday morning cartoon books, I think it's about like $22, and you only pay $15 to get. If you just want to do the $15, you can get a cheaper version of it, as well as like future books as they come out. So let's see. Scorn says, I loved Predator, Killer of Killers. I always love Viking setting. Yeah, well, it's got a little bit of everything: Vikings, samurai, and soldiers. And aliens. It's got just a little bit of everything there. All right, let me get the credits up and the notes for our first film we're reviewing. I'm debating whether or not I should have the alert box up. I'm debating it because I know, because the Daily Wire video I posted is doing really well and it's getting a lot of follows. So, tell you what, I'll disable it for right now, and then between the reviews, I'll turn it back on. And when I open it up, all right. Let me get my notes up here, so we can talk about latest films this weekend. See if we can find a little something good here. All right. So here we go. With let me make sure. Do I have the side there? Yeah. Okay. All right, so here we go with How to Train Your Dragon in 3, 2, 1. So, How to Train Your Dragon, the remake of How to Train Your Dragon from the same director, the same screenwriter, and the same composer, and featuring one of the same actors. I can't bury the lead here. This is one of the most pointless remakes, because it is, and I'm sure like this film will probably get a lot of praise just because, you know, it's much different from like Disney's live action remakes of their animated films, and the fact that that it doesn't really change anything. Because I know a lot of people don't like the Disney live action remakes because they change so much from the animated source material, and I don't really agree with a lot of their changes either, but I will give them credit for at least trying something. I mean, that's the whole point of, like, you know, having like a good remake with, you know, films like The Thing or The Magnificent Seven or Hairspray or Suspiria, is that I like those types of remakes because they add something. They're willing to try something new instead of just regurgitating the same thing over and over. Which is why I was really disappointed in this new version of How to Train Your Dragon, because there's nothing new about it. It's written and directed by Dean DeBlas, who did the first film, and it's verbatim like the same script. Like even I had not actually seen How to Train Your Dragon in about like maybe like 6 or 7 years, so it's been a long time, and I was wondering, should I go back and watch it? No, I figured I won't watch the original before I watch this film, just to see if there's something fresh to it and there's something that I haven't seen here before. But the fact that the script is so it's entirely built just to replicate the first film. I could just like beat for beat, like, oh, I remember this moment from the animated film, and oh, I remember this bit of dialogue. This is word for word. This is exactly the same film, and I'm like, and it's not popping. Because like when I think back to the first film, I remember watching it in the theater on a giant screen, and that scene where Hiccup boards his dragon Toothless and they're flying for the first time, and I remember just being mesmerized by that scene. I love the way that scene plays out, and that same scene is here. It's all the same shots, it's the same music, it's the same dialogue, and I feel nothing. I feel like I'm just watching the same thing that I saw in animation with nothing being added to it. And I think the biggest problem with this type of film is like it's just having Gerard Butler reprising the role of Stoic, because he additionally voiced like Stoic, Hiccup's father, in the original. And here, the fact that he's present here, this provides kind of like a baseline of relating back to the animated film. You can directly compare his line delivery in the animated version, which, actually had some pretty good back and forth with Hiccup in a few scenes. And that same level of chemistry is not really present in live action. It feels stiff. It feels like everyone's trying to do like a stage production, and like they're trying to treat all this dialogue and all these plot lines and scenes as being very like delicate. Like you can't change too much. Like this is very important script. And it's just, and it doesn't pop. It feels so stiff because of it. I will give the film credit, though. For some of the actors, they are doing their best with the limited roles that they're given here. Like Mason Thames, who's playing Hiccup. He's not bad. He's a pretty good actor. Of course, he plays Hiccup, the underdog Viking, trying to prove himself in a village of Vikings who are constantly, killing dragons. And Hiccup tries to prove himself. And of course, he befriends the dragon Toothless, who, the visual effects for Toothless, like they're good. Like they do maintain like that big-eyed cat wonder of, like the Toothless dragon. But, and it's like, it's an okay transition, but it doesn't have that, it doesn't have like that distinct nature that the first film had, where it's like, oh, this is a different type of dragon. I think the fact that, you've seen Toothless before, you have an idea of what makes him cute and what makes him fun, and they're replicating it here in like a CGI that's built to be composited into live action, and it does a decent job making a transition, but it also doesn't have much of any extra character to it. Like I said, the whole point of what makes a great remake is just that you add something new to it. And I think it was probably a mistake handing this film back to Dean, because it's really just him taking the original script and just, crossing out like the animated sequences, just film in live action. It's pretty much that. I can't stress this enough. It's just verbatim the script, except a few like minor changes here and there. And that's also a big problem, because then when you've seen this film before, and then you start like, okay, I've seen this. I just sat there, kept waiting for something to be different, anything. And the few things that were different, they were just so minor. Like the first time we introduced Astrid, played by Nico Parker. I remember like when she's first introduced, like she's seen as like this great love interest for Hiccup, just the way that she that she swings water around, and there's like a giant fireball behind her, and we don't get the fire behind her this time. And it's like, that's such a small thing that like I wouldn't even care about, but the fact that it's like, oh, why am I paying attention to this? Like, oh yeah, because everything else is like, I've seen all this before. I've heard all this before. It's adding nothing to it. And the actress can only use so much. Like Nico Parker, she's fine, but she's just like kind of more or less reciting the role here. It's not, there's never a moment where you feel like there's that extra vigor of her trying to prove herself as a Viking and getting extra jealous of Hiccup. The same deal with Mason playing Hiccup. Like, he's good, but I think he's almost like too good. He's never given that moment to, like, you know, kind of make the character's own and offer like that stammering that like Jay brought to the role when he was voicing the character. It just feels like, no, you're in this is the role you play. Don't make it your own. Just read off the lines and do your best to kind of try to give it your own little flair, but not too much. And that is most present, I think, with Nick Frost playing Gobber. Now, of course, you know, he's taken over the role from a more Scottish actor, and Frost is just, I mean, he's buried in that giant beard, and he's got like the prosthetics on, so it doesn't really feel like he can do much with this role or make it his own. So he's just kind of going through the motions of it, which is kind of sad because the original Gobber had like a lot of, he had like the perfect wry commentary, and Frost just kind of gives it more of like almost kind of like a passivity. Like, I can't stress this enough. It does feel like a stage production. Like, it's just like, oh, just recite the lines, do it as best you can, but stick to the text. Don't change anything. And it really feels like a waste with like some of these actors too. Like, I mean, Peter Serafinowicz as Serafinowicz. I can never say his name right, but he's a pretty damn funny actor, and he can be pretty cool in some roles. And he's kind of wasted as this character of Speetloud. And I thought, like, there could be, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing his name, but they never really say his name. They don't really do much with him. I also kind of really liked Snotlout being played by Gabriel Howell. I felt like he was trying the most to kind of like make that role his own, and kind of like, you know, because it doesn't really feel like he's trying to channel Jonah Hill. It felt like he was trying to do more of his own thing, because his whole character is supposed to be cocky. So I felt like there was a lot more room for Howell, you know, especially for, you know, not being like that big of a name for a film like this. That would make him a much more interesting character. And it's like, I would like to see just anything new. It's like, it's the same. There's no point in like talking about the story, because it's the exact same story. Down to the exact same scenes and the setup and the dialogue and the, you know, the little details and the dragon designs. Everything is the same. And I know for some people, that's going to be the one thing that's going to make them recommend it, because they're going to be like, oh, this isn't like the Disney remakes because they don't change anything. It's like, yeah, they don't. They also don't add anything to it either. It's just, it's the worst kind of remake, because at least with the Disney remakes, there's something to talk about. You can talk about how much you don't like how Lilo and Stitch treats parents. You can talk about how off the music feels in Snow White. You can talk about how stumbling like Dumbo felt, with how it was like criticizing like capitalist entertainers and trying to like stumble with how it like tried to push women into science. There's stuff to talk about there. There's not much to talk about in this How to Train Your Dragon remake, aside from the fact that it's not trying. It's playing it too safe. And I know that for a lot of people that'll be fine, especially if you've never seen the animated film. You will probably like this. But once you go see the animated version, you'll realize, oh, yeah, this live action version is just, you know, directly replicating and not adding much of anything to it. It's like, just like Dean is just kind of wasting this chance to go back to his story and try to explore something more with it, do something different, try out new designs, try anything. And there's nothing here. It's just so, it's such a waste of like all this great CGI, the use of the dragons, which does look pretty good. You know, especially like a waste of like the cinematography of Bill Pope, which it looks nice. I like the way that they framed the village and the island and like the colors and the green of it all. It all looks good. And I'm not like knocking the film for that. It looks beautiful with like great Bill Pope cinematography and the great compositing of the VFX, and able to like maintain that same cartoonish level of like the dragons from the animated film. That stuff's all good, but to what end? What are we doing here? It's pointless. It's the worst type of How to Train Your Dragon 2025 just feels like one of the worst type of remakes, because it takes all of that material from the original and it doesn't tinker with it, doesn't toy with it, it doesn't try anything new. it's just a pointless exercise in replicating animation into live action. And even if you are looking at the film on that angle, it just doesn't pop. I didn't feel the same stuff that I felt when I was watching the animated How to Train Your Dragon movie. So yeah, this new How to Train Your Dragon is nothing new. It's just a pointless remake that wastes a chance to do something different and just doesn't. So if you want to endure How to Train Your Dragon, it will be in theaters this weekend. Oh, Scorn mentioning that apparently we're in a cult. Good to know one guy. Yeah, after I posted the Daily Wire video essay yesterday, we got this one guy who just went around to every single comment thread in there. And I've noticed as a trend, whenever someone wants to talk, basically like try to like counter the arguments that I'm making, they will often try to do this thing. Well, they'll just say like, "Oh, you're all brainwashed. You're in a cult," and you're like, "Okay, for what?" And they just like, "Oh, well, they just like sputter out." As I've noticed this happens too when you challenge anybody who just says like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." Because I've had this happen before when someone tried to defend Ben Shapiro when I made just like a passive comment about how bad he is. And someone said like, "Well, Ben Shapiro's more famous than you. He's done a lot more." And it's like, okay. And I just lightly commented back, "What is Ben Shapiro most famous for?" And then he got really defensive, just like, "Well, I'm just like, he's doing more for the world." It's like, okay, what has he done? And it just kind of like sputtered into like this doomerism. Was like, "Oh, I don't know. It's all division. I don't even care about any of this stuff." But I just comment on the internet. It's like, what is with this nihilism? If you got a point to make it. Don't. If you think my point's wrong, fine, but defend it. Don't just. I've seen this happen too. Like they'll just like move the goalpost, or just like go into like this nihilism. "Oh, you're in a cult," or "We're all disconnected. The world is decaying." It's like, can you stay on any cogent point for one moment? Like, it is so pathetic. It's all right. The funniest thing about him too is like he left the conversation being like, "Well, if you ever need help to get out of your cult, you can reach out to me." It's like, yeah, you enter this conversation being all insulting, and they're like, no, I'm here to help. I'm gonna get you out of this cult. It's like, my dude, if you're really trying to get people out of cults, that's the worst way to approach them. That's the absolute worst way. All right, I'll see if I can maintain my voice here. I kind of threw it out a little. Getting overly excited on a nothing film like How to Train Your Dragon. I don't know. Maybe I got like I just got like that hatred in me for nihilism. I'm sorry. I'd like there to be a point to things if you're gonna do them. All right. Oh, one moment here. Just gotta clear my throat. I'm gonna mute the mic. Okay. You didn't have to listen to any of that. All right, let's get the notes up here. We'll talk about a much better film, The Materialists. We'll go from dragons to drama. All right. So here we go with The Materialists. In 3, 2, 1. So, Materialists is the latest film from Celine Song, who previously did Past Lives, which was one of my favorite films from 2 years ago. I really love that film and how it kind of tackled the difficult aspects that come with modern romance through the distancing of time and locations and like the different people that we interact with. Materialists takes a look at romance from a much different angle. As the title implies, it focuses more on the tangible and kind of like the greed and commodification that comes with dating in the modern age. So it's very much a romantic drama, or, more of like a love triangle that kind of toys with the medium while also still kind of like dabbling in what makes the genre so appealing. So at the center of the story is Lucy, played by Dakota Johnson, who used to be an actress but is now a matchmaker. And she basically looks at the world in a very mathematical way. She's used to hooking women up with men and tries to find like the best matches possible. Now, having done this profession for so long, she looks at everybody in a very specific way. She doesn't look at people as, well, people. She basically looks at them as, a series of stats on a chart, and, tries to find ways to connect people together. Now, in a lesser romantic drama, this would be, it would just be a film where she needs like just someone to kind of like pull her out of her stats and just, learns to love and not see people, just as like stats on a list. And the film does lean towards that, obviously, because it tries to focus on how, you can't just go through life like this. If you want to find someone you love, you need to see the world much differently. You can't just look at the world on an economic level, because if you do, you're not going to form more personal connections that way. But it's not an easy road. Like, it's not so simple as just like finding that right guy. And I think that's because like Lucy kind of like sets up this world where it's tough for her to accept that romance, because there are two men in her life that she's attracted to. One is a man that she meets at a wedding, Harry, played by Pedro Pascal, and he's a rich guy who basically looks at the world in the same way as Lucy. He sees, the advantages of like, taking on surgeries to change your appearance. He sees, the appeal that women have from making a lot of money, and, having a very spacious apartment, which is great to take women back to. And, he's done like the math himself and has determined that Lucy is perfect for him, while Lucy is kind of like, forcing Pedro off, saying, no, I'm too analytical. You're not going to like me. And Harry's like, no, I get it. You see the world this way, and I can see that world too. And it's kind of interesting because it's like, for someone who just sees the world through money, about just being economically stable, Harry and Lucy seem perfect for each other. But then, of course, there's the other man in her life, which is John, played by Chris Evans, who is a struggling actor. He doesn't make that much, and he's a little bit more blunt with his emotions and, has a lot more passion. Now, obviously, it would seem like John is the likely choice for Lucy to go to, realizing that money isn't everything. And it does kind of lean towards that, but but like I said, it doesn't take the easy route here. It makes this a very like earnest depiction of, looking at romance through the lens of, through like a capitalist lens, and the coldness that comes with it, and the kind of realization that you need to look for more beyond just, the height and the hobbies and the ethnicity and the hair color and all that. You need to look beyond all that if you want to find someone that you truly connect with. And having that love triangle present here, I think, it's interesting because it's one that I feel like that Lucy kind of has to go more on a singular journey of her own to try to like come to that realization. And she gets that through a few people. Like there's her boss Violet, played by Marilyn Ireland, who, she's been through like the matchmaking service before, and she kind of like gives Lucy a previous like, look, in this profession, there's going to be problems. Like, you might think you have the perfect numbers, but you won't always. You are going to make mistakes. And at one point, Lucy does make a big mistake with one of her clients, Sophie, played by Zoe Winters. And it is just, I won't reveal what it is here, but it is just so tragic and forces Lucy to see people on a more personal level rather than just their worth. And the thing is, like, it'd be so easy to make like Lucy and John and Harry into such like, simplistic vessels for like the type of romance that's being weaved here. But the fact that these characters are so ingrained in their lives and so focused on, their innermost goals. I think that it just makes them so much more relatable to that degree, because I love the way that kind of Lucy kind of like views herself as a little bit cold, because you get that in the way that she, talks about people behind their backs, how she views the world, how she interacts with her clients. Everything has this very sterile, cold nature to it. And the fact that she realizes it too, creates this very, earnest portrait of a woman just trying to figure out what is the best route for love in the age where it feels like, especially if you're living in New York City, everything economically matters more than anything else. And I think that's the best way to recommend The Materialists, is like, this is the type of romance film for somebody who looks at all these like rom-coms and romantic dramas that happen in New York City, and the only thing they can think about is, oh man, how much did that apartment cost? How much did that food cost? Why are they going out to this restaurant? How could they afford all this? Where's the money for all this? And the thing is, that is very much at the forefront of Lucy's mind in everything that she navigates through her life. And I think that's probably one of the most refreshing angles that Celine Song takes of this material. That being said, though, she doesn't shy away from trying to make the film genuinely romantic, I think, by like caring about these characters. There are several scenes, much like in past lives, where she'll just let the camera linger. She'll just let a long passage happen where we're either just like Lucy or Harry are just at dinner, and they're, being blunt about what they're looking for in a relationship and how they view the world. And it's just fascinating to just like not cut away from that. Just let the camera zoom in very slowly as they just kind of, open up and showcase more of themselves, and just let that kind of, let those thoughts linger in the air a bit before the conversation can continue. And I love the way that just it lets these characters breathe in a film like this. I don't think, now of course the obvious comparison will be, is this film as great as Past Lives? And I think it really isn't. And I don't mean that to make the film, I don't say that to make the film sound terrible. The film actually is really good. I love it. But I adored Past Lives because I felt like it was tapping in to something deeper here. And it feels like Materialists is kind of trying to be a balance of showcasing like the darkness of greed that comes within, how you try to find the perfect relationship, while also still adhering to like a lot of like the similar tropes, but still playing with them, still trying to figure, okay, if these characters are going to end up together, well, let's tinker with it a bit. Let's make that road a little bit rockier. Let's see if we can not just make it like a storybook romance, and see if we can make it just a little bit more real, while still trying to like, find like a happier route for Lucy to get to in the end of this film. And it does take some major swings here, like the bookend of this film and how it tries to like tackle the material nature that comes with romance, I think is a little bit too big of a swing. I think it takes you out of the film a little bit, and you kind of think, oh man, is this going to be like a little bit more like Tree of Life in what they're going for here? And thankfully it is. And thankfully it becomes like this little just, little highlight about, contemplating the history of relationships and how they've progressed for so long. And now that we're at this point in time where we kind of look at romance through like a much different lens. We look at it, through apps and how we relate to each other, through like social media, and how we view each other perhaps more through numbers than our words, and just, and just contemplating more of that, and like the difficulties that come with trying to find just the right person. Like she, Lucy's whole deal is that she promotes like this business model where she can find the perfect someone just through math, and math might not be enough. Sometimes, as corny as it sounds, yeah, you need more than math to, fall in love. Thankfully, that's not on the poster or anything like that. And great use of the actors here. Like Pedro Pascal, I think is just has this very natural undertone to him that makes him kind of seem like the perfect match for Lucy. Chris Evans is, I like seeing him get a little bit more like hostile and a little bit more emotional, and just have a lot more like passion in him. Like he's very blunt in a lot of scenes, that almost like to the detriment of, you know, him trying to rekindle this romance with Lucy. And it's fascinating to watch that unfold between these two characters who feel like there are greater forces keeping them apart. You know, like, yeah, money's a factor, but there's a lot more to it than that. And I would say, like, that might be a negative of the film, is like, I wish it explored a little bit more, but I think for just keeping the lens on just like how hard it is to date and to find someone you love when you view the world through all these specifics. I think it's a fascinating angle that makes Materialists such a good film. So yeah, for Celine Song's second film about romance, she does a pretty damn good job, and I look forward to seeing what she does next. So yeah, Materialists makes a great use of Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, and Pedro Pascal. It's a wonderful love triangle that goes some places that I didn't expect. A few places that I did for what Song can film. A few of her hallmarks are here. But you know what? For a love triangle, it's very rare to see a film this contemplative and emotional and this real with what it's trying to say. So yeah, I absolutely adored Materialists. So Materialists will be in theaters this weekend, and you should definitely check it out. Man, what a refreshing film too. I saw that film the night after I saw How to Train Your Dragon, and it was so it was so soothing, just, you know, to go from, you know, just a retread of a fantasy film to an original romance from like a rising director, and just something fresh and invigorating, you know. And sometimes you need that. Sometimes there are films that are just like, oh, it's, you know, like mainstream films are not trying anything. There's nothing fun here, and then you go see something like Materialists, and it just it renews you. It restores your faith in wanting to go see movies again, you know. Like days when I go see How to Train Your Dragon are tough. Days when I go to see something like Materialists make it all worth it. And the fact that we got that in the summer too, I really hope the film doesn't get lost in the shuffle. I mean, it might. I really hope it doesn't, because I loved that film. All right, now we will get to Predator, Killer of Killers. I'm sure that a few people are looking forward to this one. I was actually too, because I had actually seen this film over a week ago, and I couldn't. Here's the thing: if a film debuts on streaming, they tend not to release the embargo until the last minute. So I had seen the film for, you know, like 6 or 7 days before it debuted on Hulu, and I wanted to talk about it so bad, and I couldn't. It's frustrating, but now I do. So we'll finally get my thoughts out in the open here. Even though I did get the written review up on movieswithmark.com, if you want to read it. All right, here we go. Oh, one moment here. I'm clear my throat. 1 minute. Make sure I mute the mic for that. I don't like it when people burp on streams. If you can mute, you should. All right. So, here are the notes here. They're right here. All right, here we go. With Predator, Killer of Killers in 3, 2, 1. So Predator, Killer of Killers is an animated Predator film from Dan Trachtenberg, who directed Prey. Now, I loved Prey. It was a great Predator spinoff because I mean, just the idea of Prey alone is fun. It's like, let's take, you know, the Predator alien that we've seen from all the movies, you know, the alien who comes down to Earth and hunts humans. You know, he's got like the triangle crosshairs and the cool tech and the braids. What if we took that alien and placed him in a different setting in a different time period? And they did that with Prey. It's like, oh, this is actually really cool. I like that, you know, there's a scenery change here. This is fun. And then, of course, the natural question is, okay, what else can you do? What other time periods could we go to? What other locations across the world could we go to? That just it opens up this whole exciting new world of stuff that you can do with the Predator alien. And Killer of Killers is very much that. It's answering that question of oh, here's these different time periods and here's these different locations. Let's see what we can do. And it actually turns out to be a pretty damn good Predator film. In fact, I'd go so far as to say this is probably the best Predator film since the first Predator movie that we've got. And I know that's a kind of a low bar, but I did kind of raise it after Prey. And I dare say, Killer of Killers is either as good or better than Prey. So the whole idea behind this, the film initially starts as an anthology. So we go to, we basically get a collection of these stories from different times and different locations on Earth. So the first story is The Shield, in which we follow Ursa, who is a Viking bound by revenge to, kill this entire clan and, be an inspiring figure for other ascending Vikings. And her bloody quest eventually, of course, the Predator arrives and she finds herself trying to battle against this alien tech with little more than, her axe and shield. And of course, she ends up winning the fight, but there is a big cost to her revenge. And she kind of somewhat learns a lesson about, how a common enemy needs to be realized before it's too late. Then we get The Sword, which takes place in feudal Japan, in which we follow the character of Kamakaki, who is basically bound by a revenge for his brother. So, same deal here. We get kind of like a samurai sword story of, bloody revenge. And then the Predator shows up and ends up, destroying people in the most grisly ways of ripping people to shreds and cutting them in half and decapitating people, taking them all out. And of course, Kamakami, that's his name. Why am I screaming? So Kamakami ends up, fighting with his brother alongside the Predator. So, it feels like we're getting a progression of, humans learning to have a common enemy with the Predator and trying to fight back. And then we skip ahead to World War II with the story The Bullet, in which John Torres tries to prove himself as a plucky pilot who tries to find a clever means to take out a Predator in the sky. So the previous films all felt like they were bound just by revenge, and it feels like Torres's little story here is more about trying to prove himself and trying to fight smarter rather than harder. So we get these three cool stories, and they're great on their own. I love the CGI here they use, which is very much a kind of like a stylized cell shading technique, kind of very much akin to the Netflix animated show Arcane. So yeah, I think that style perfectly suits this type of story, just because the way that the Predator just destroys people, just rips them to shreds and just snaps people in half, takes off limbs, takes off arms and legs, and decapitates people. That stuff is perfectly made for animation, and it works surprisingly well here. So the anthology stories alone, they're all pretty good in their own little ways, focusing on different aspects of culture and revenge and nonviolence and basically trying to prove yourself as an underdog. They all were great compartmentalized, but then you get to the climax in which all three of them are taken into the giant Predator arena and forced to fight each other. And it's oh wow, this I was fine with it just as an anthology, but the fact that we're going to tie it all together here, and the fact that these three characters are much different in how they approach combat and proving themselves and revenge and trying to find honor in their lives, just made for such a fascinating fight, because you have Ursa, who's still committed to brutalizing people. You have Kamakami, who's not desiring to resign his life to violence, and Torres, who's just just trying to find a way to survive as best he can, and he ends up kind of commandeering the Predator tech to do just that. So we get these three fascinating characters who they're great on their own and how they try to destroy Predator, but the fact that all three of them have to work together to get out of this arena of all these predators who want them dead, I think it's way more exciting than just, a predator hunting a bunch of humans in the woods or in an urban setting like in the second Predator film. It's taking that idea of just, different time frame, different settings around the world, and just like taking it to, the ultimate conclusion of like, what if we did all that and then combined it and then, had different predators and had all the human characters be more interesting as opposed to just whether or not they can get a good shot on the predator or whether or not they're tough enough. What if there's actually some smarts here and some contemplation on death and violence and and trying to basically like trying to assert these characters with much more agency, as opposed to just whether or not they can survive the predator, because their stories are mostly that. It's just, Ursa, Kamakami, and Torres all trying to survive the Predator. It's the same story basically that we've gotten like Prey and all the other Predator films, but then to have all those survivors then converge and work together and try to understand each other, especially with like the language barrier that they have, and their different approaches to violence. I think it's the chemistry they have is great here, and the fact that you topple that on top of all the wonderful animation here and the brilliant brutality of it all with red and green blood gushing all over the place is just, it's fantastic. Like this is, it felt like, honestly, this felt like picking up like a series of really good Predator comics and just reading it all through at once and just like, that was so cool. And I'd love to see that in an animated film, and here it is in animated form. Not to mention the fact that this film actually kind of has a neat little Easter egg to Prey and how it ties in into that film as well. You don't have to see Prey to get it, but it's a neat little Easter egg. So yeah, I mean, for taking this different animated approach to Predator, it works surprisingly well, and honestly, I would like to see more. I'd like to see more. Maybe not even specifically just like the trio that we get in this film. I'd love to see other time frames, and maybe have them all converge on Earth. Maybe they all fight one predator. Maybe just there's so much more material that you can do with this, that it's made the Predator franchise so refreshing, because like there's so many areas it can go with, and there's so much to experiment with as well, that I'm so looking forward to like Badlands when it comes out later this year. So yeah, if you weren't already excited for the next Predator film coming out, Killer of Killers should satisfy that that desire for more Predator, especially after Prey, especially for Dan Trachtenberg once again directing this another Predator film. This rocks. This is the type of Predator movie I want to see, not just a retread, not just doing the same thing with the same type of human characters. I want human characters I care about. I want different scene changes, so it's not just like the same old setting. I want to see different types of predators, and I want to see more that ooey gooey gross out violence that you can do a whole lot more of in animation. So just, for being the first Predator animated film, it's honestly one of the best Predator films, I gotta say. So I love the hell out of Killer of Killers. So Predator, Killer of Killers is currently streaming on Hulu. If you have not seen it, you gotta check it out, especially if you love yourself some Predator, All right, I'll turn the alert box back on now. Let's see from Scorn. I loved The Emperor. The Emperor, like Predator, he gave off major Shao Kahn vibes. It really did. Yeah, I mean, it's got kind of like the Mortal Kombat thing going of like you're gonna fight to the death. But the fact that he's got like that kind of Shao Kahn vibe. I love how like intimidating he is without without trying too hard to be intimidating. Not to mention the little little quadruped alien they had come out into the ring was pretty cool too. I love how they keep mixing it up. Like he's like because even like, yeah, like the emperor predator, even he realized like, yeah, this is cool, I like this, but how can we make the battle more fun? Like, what if they don't fight? What if they learn to fight together? We got to let's add like a little, like, quadruped alien to come in there and eat them. Maybe that'll spice things up a bit. I feel like the film is the same way with, Killer of Killers. Just like, what other cool stuff can we do with Predator? And see, that's the thing that I hate most about the How to Train Your Dragon remake. It's like, it doesn't have that ingenuity. It doesn't have that confidence to go forward and try something new and make something more. It's like, what else can we do with this material? That's what makes remakes and sequels so much fun. Let's see. Linear Organized Goldrick says, I loved Prey and hope they would do sequels to places in other places and times like feudal Japan. Yeah, and that's exactly what they did. And then, of course, it opens the doors, like, to how much more you could do with it. I would love if they just make it an animated series, because there's so much. They could kind of take the same route as what Marvel did with Marvel's What If, where they had all those different anthology stories, and then at the end of the season they'd tie them all together. I've loved that. Just think about that. You'd have like a Predator series in which each episode you get like a different time frame in a different location. Like, I don't know, you could have you could have like Pompeii, like, they're battling a predator as like the lava's coming down. You could have oh god, what else could you have? You could have like the Crusades, if Predator shows up there, and you could there's so many angles you could explore and then tie them all together in the end of that season like that. I think you could get like a pretty good mileage out of that for like a few seasons, because it'd be exciting, because then you have like a good grounding for exploring something more thematically interesting, and the Predator becomes more of like just a vessel for these human characters to contemplate violence and thrive a lot more. I think that's like it's fun stuff, That's what it should be. That's So I'm kind of hoping like that the next Alien film, or I think there's an Alien series coming out. Of the Alien series, will try something new. I think it will. I think you have to at that point. Oh yeah, but yeah. Killer of Killers, very much. It satisfied not just what I wanted to see out of Predator, but stuff I didn't even know I wanted to see out of a Predator film. So I'm a little bit cautious now. I'm like, man, is Badlands gonna be good? Because I don't know, Killer of Killers set the bar so high. I do like the fact though that Badlands does look like it's trying something new. It looks like it's not just gonna be the same thing as Prey and Killer of Killers. Like, it's actually gonna try to explore a little bit more about the Predator aliens as opposed to just the humans that can defeat them. So. At least, like, they're trying something new here. They're not just gonna repeat themselves. Although I would like to see more Killer of Killers, very much. Make it a show, why don't you? All right, let's do a quick recap of the films that we reviewed on today's stream. We reviewed How to Train Your Dragon, the latest remake, which pretty much has all the same stuff from the original film. It's very faithful. It's a very verbatim script, with the same characters, the same dialogue, the same shots, the same director, the same screenwriter, the same composer, and Gerard Butler reprising his role. It's very faithful to the original film, but also very pointless. It's the worst type of remake. It's the remake that tries so hard to just put an animated film into live action and adds nothing new, especially from having the same director. So very disappointing. What else did we review? We also reviewed the Materialists, the latest film from Celine Song. Not as great as Past Lives, but still a very refreshing romantic drama and a love triangle that explores how romance is a little bit tougher in the modern age, where we look at love more as a transaction, more as a business transaction, rather than just being a personal attachment with passion. So there's some great angles explored here, and not to mention the trio of Dakota Johnson, Pedro Pascal, and Chris Evans are fantastically used in this film. Very much love that movie. And Predator, Killer of Killers takes the great premise of Prey of throwing the predator into different time frames and settings, and just kind of fulfills the ultimate desires of that in animation. So, for being a little bit of an anthology and a little bit of a culmination of all the different ideas that you can do with Predator, this is one of the best Predator films, and not just a really good Predator animated film. It's that damn good. So between all three of those films, I do love Killer of Killers the most. But if you're going to go out to the theater, I think the choice is pretty obvious here. You should go see The Materialists. And I know the Father's Day is coming up, so if you're going to go out to see a film at the theater, you probably are going to get roped in to see How to Train Your Dragon. But if you need a good detour, I do know there are a lot of theaters this weekend that are going to be showing Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and The Last Crusade. So if you do end up going to the theater, there is a safety net there. Don't worry, dads. Indiana Jones is there. It's a safety there. So you won't have to be roped into seeing How to Train Your Dragon. Not to mention, there's other cool stuff coming out, like Life of Chuck, obviously, and I think Friendship is still playing. There's a few good films still playing out there. So yeah, if you're going to go out to the theater, go see The Materialists, and if you're staying at home, go check out Predator, Killer of Killers. All right, so if you would like to read some of the reviews of the films I reviewed on today's stream, you can go to my website, movieswithmark.bsky.social, to read up on all of them. You can get more of my thoughts on How to Train Your Dragon. I don't have the review up for Materials Lab. That should be up by either tonight or tomorrow. And I do have the Killer of Killers review up there as well. So if you like this stream and you'd like to stay up to date on the latest films, be sure to like and subscribe to keep updated on the latest films as they come out. If you'd like to support the stream and you'd like to get some books to see more classy in your place, I have a Patreon listed below, which you can use to support. You can donate to get one of my movie history books. I recently wrote a book on Saturday morning cartoons, and I'm currently writing a book on banned movies from across the world. And when that book is finished, you'll get a copy as well if you're subscribed on Patreon. So a little bit of a shout out to the patrons here. Two of them are actually right in the chat right now, Viceroy Scorn and Tanya as well. Who else? Brett Walton. And I think that's it. There's a few other like free patrons I'm probably forgetting, but those are the three. Thank you all so much for your support. What do we got coming up? I think next week. Wow, I'm getting hammered with a lot of films this week. Next week I will be back with reviews of 28 Years Later, the long-awaited third film in the Danny Boyle 28. I was almost at vampire. The 28 Days Later zombie saga. We're going to cover that new film. And thank you so much for the follow. I'm glad I turned on alerts for that. I figured that would happen eventually. So yeah, what else we got? We got 28 Years Later. We also have, there's one other coming. Oh, of course. Elio is coming up. The latest Disney animated film, which is coming out. And here's hoping it's good, because I'd love to support an original Disney film that comes out rather than just another sequel. I haven't seen it yet. Here's hoping it's good. I'm seeing it next week. So we'll cover those two films and probably another one. I haven't decided which one I'm going to cover yet. But we'll figure it out. It might be something like Predator, Killer of Killers, where it's a streaming one that comes out, if I can't find anything. But yeah, for sure next week, I'll be reviewing 28 Years Later and Elio. Is it Elio? I haven't watched many of the trailers for it. But we'll review it. We'll see how it does. So yeah, like this video and stay subscribed to keep up to date on the latest movies. Subscribe to the Patreon. Thank you so much to Tanya and Viceroy and Brett for your patronage. And yeah, I'll be back next week to review more movies. So yeah, until next time, give a little Megaforce kiss here. Have a good one, everybody. Okay, do I... Is that there? Oh, wait, no, shoot. Sorry. Later.